Teransanai. So, as usual, let us start our discussion today by chanting the Namaskara 3 times and expressing our gratitude for being able to listen to the Dhamma, practice the Noble Path, and make a determination to be alert, be aware, and be fully focused on getting the most out of the sermon. Let us chant the Namaskara. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. In our monastery at the moment, there's a flu going around. So from our 200 Swami Mahansis, I think at least 50 have been infected, and I'm not one of them, luckily, yet. So I had been hoping that at least I can make it until this Sunday, not getting infected, and that has worked out. But I hope that even tomorrow and the next few days I can save myself, and that's why actually in the monastery we have to wear masks all the time, just so that we can reduce the spread. And so yeah, that's the first time it happened since I'm there, that so many people are sick. But it's not a serious kind of problem, so I think none of them will be seriously in trouble. So, okay, so today first thing I wanted to say was that, first of all, there are some among you who have come, actually many of you have come very early already, so this is maybe now our sermon number, I think 11 or 12, right? So we started in the beginning of August. Some of your faces, I know you have come here since August. Anyways, I was thinking that these now 3 months for myself were a long journey, a journey of development as a preacher, right? So my teacher, when he asked me to give these sermons, he had confidence in the fact that I understand the Dhamma to the point where I am open and able enough to go out and talk to people and explain them how to apply it and how to understand it to their lives. But that doesn't make somebody a good preacher. Still, I would say I'm far away from being that. But I know that it's part of the path, right? It's part of developing myself and part of understanding the mistakes and the weaknesses and overcoming them for the sake of my own salvation and in order to make the salvation possible to many more, to the ones who listen to me. And the fact that I feel very much supported by everyone who comes and listens and is part of this event. In other words, actually these events and most of the things we do, I think everything we do in the monastery, whenever we do it, it's always something that happens to the good of everyone, right? So everyone gets something out of this. It's not just like I get something out of this event or you get something out of this event. We all get something out of this event, right? I am grateful for the chance to explain whatever I know to you and to make it practical, not only theory, but actually so that you can easily understand and get solutions to your problems and get inspired. where to go in life. What is the right direction? What road should I take? And what road should I not take? Right? So this is one aspect. So I wanted to express my gratitude to everyone who has come here and has supported this event, supported me in giving me a chance actually to express myself and to learn from doing that. And it helped me a lot. And it will be something that I hope to make use of for many more people in the future. That's what my teacher wants me to do, at least. So, and if that's what my teacher asks me to do, if that's how he thinks I can render the biggest service to the world, then that's what I'm going to do, right? Because all of us at the monastery, we only have one idea in mind, which is giving up this idea of this is my body, this is my mind, and this is how I am going to use this, but instead thinking about how this machine, body and mind, can be used to bring the most benefits to the world, to the nature. Right? This is what we try to do. And I hope you will also be inspired by this, and you will understand how that works and how to do that, right? How to live a life like that. So that was my first feeling I had in my mind. Second thing is, again, I'm very pleased to see many of you, I think most of you, every one of you, whenever you participate in these events, you take a chance to engage in the merits, right? In the merits before or after the sermon. Because I really hope that when you do this, when you keep doing your merits, not just here when you come here, but every day other ways, you will develop in your life. Something will happen. Something should happen, right? If you really do it wholeheartedly, something should happen for you. Therefore, I'm very happy to see that these are small things like playing the music or offering the oil lamps, offering the flowers, but it's really good. It makes this event more colorful. And if it's more colorful, then it makes everyone who comes here more pleasant, more inspired, more happy, right? Just to create this mindset that helps us all to absorb this Dhamma, absorb something new, right? And to be focused, to have energy in our minds, not to get sleepy, because it can happen. Sleepiness especially can happen, and I know it most of all because even I get sleepy when I'm, not right now, but when I'm in the monastery. Sometimes I'm listening to sermon in the monastery and I also get sleepy, and sometimes it's just because of lack of merits actually, right? Because in our journey of samsara, we have done lots of goods and bads, and what actually prevents us to go on this path is most of the things we have done, pulling somebody out of this path, or acting against the truth, acting against what's right in the world. And when we do that, nature punishes us in this way. So sometimes sleepiness is the result. You would like to listen to some sermon. I would like to listen to this monk, to Guru Hamdru, Naika Hamdru, to somebody preach, and it's not possible because I'm too sleepy and I can't focus. So it happens. In that case, of course, you can stand up, or what I do is I stand up. So then I change the environment, right? Because the good and the bad things we have done, it's not something we have to go through that. We don't have to suffer these things, right? You don't have to get back the bad things that you have done. Not necessarily, right? You can avoid the bad things that you have done. It all depends on the environment that you create, actually. So, for example, I believe that in our journey of samsara we have done many bad things as well, for which For example, when you go to the street and you stand at the crossroads, if you were to go and cross the street without watching left and right, checking who's coming, don't you think that you might be hit by a car very easily? And that means you will die in an accident? That means what is it that we get in this moment? Well, life is taken from us in a situation, in a very unexpected and tragic situation. It's a tragic event, right? So then, if we get that, so what does it mean about what we have given, what we must have given? We must have given such kind of things. Otherwise, it would never happen. But just because we have given that, I can tell you for a fact, I can't remember my past lives, okay? But I can tell you what my mindset was before I understood anything about the Dhamma. And I can tell you, my idea was, happiness is something I can find in the outside world, right? Happiness is something I can find by eating ice cream, by associating girls or boys, by marrying, by traveling around the world, by using drugs, by what else? Becoming rich, becoming famous, whatever it is, right? So, once again, I don't say that any of these things are wrong as such, and that you shouldn't do them. I'm just talking about this idea that happiness is something that you can find in these things. This was something I definitely believed most of my life, right? Happiness is something I can find. If I can be with this girl, definitely I'll be happy. And she is the one. Therefore, what if somebody else also has interest in her? What do you think what could come into my mind thinking to do? Well, I can say in this life I was a very innocent man. I never had any real thoughts of harming anyone. Actually, I told you the story of stealing already when I was a child, so okay, let's ignore that point. Let's say, physically in this life, I never hit anyone. Okay. But only because I was lucky. If somebody were to come to me and he would offend me strong enough, actually it's wrong, I hit somebody, now I remember. I'm not going to go into that story for now, but I can't even say, and actually I'm ashamed that something like this has happened. So, you see, sometimes we think we are much better than we really are. That's how it works, right? It's how our mind functions. That's fine. But the point is, I know that if just being triggered hard enough, strong enough, if somebody comes and annoys me too much, don't you think that there comes a point when all I would think about doing, the only thing I know what to do would be to hit this person, at least giving what we call a chin whack, hit him slap him on the chin, at least. If that's not enough, then what else? So in that sense, I was just lucky. No one ever annoyed me to the point. Actually, it happened more than once. Now I can remember another thing. But let's say twice. So, anyways, if somebody would annoy me to the point when I couldn't control my thoughts, my feelings, my anger. So what would I do in this moment? Definitely, I would not know any other solution but to hit. And if this girl is the one, right, for me, don't you think that if somebody could come into crossing my path, don't you think in the past, in samsara, many times, all I knew what to do was to do some harm to this man, or to this woman, or to this girl, or maybe, I don't know, maybe in the past, in samsara, I was married, and my wife, I came home and I see this wife with another man. I don't want to feel this situation when I come home and something like this happens. I just hope that it will never happen to you, but actually don't ever say never, because whatever you have given, if the environment for that is right, who knows what happens, right? It can happen to all of us. It didn't happen to me, but I don't say that it couldn't have happened. Maybe I have done that to others, right? What do you think? Yeah, maybe I have. So in that sense, I know that I must have done a lot of bad things in my past journey in samsara, simply for the reason that I was born in this life. And I don't remember my past lives, okay? Nothing about it. But I remember how I lived in this life and what I believed about the world. And the most important thing that I believed about the world was that happiness is something that exists in the outside world. That's why I was running after girls. Not like a crazy one, but just like everyone else in society. When I was a young teenager, adult, student, that's what I did. And not just this, playing computer games and other things. These were the things I did. Because I was looking for happiness in the outside world. And I know that if such a mindset is there, that's why all these bad things happen ultimately, right? Nobody harms anyone else just because of some fun. It's always because somebody stands in your way or in our way of where we believe happiness is, right? Would you harm anyone otherwise? Has anyone harmed anyone otherwise, if not for the idea that he or she prevents me from being happy, staying happy, finding happiness, or something like that? You would never harm anyone if you were truly, truly happy, right? No, you wouldn't do that. And also I wouldn't do that. A mind would never do that. So, like that, since that is something I can definitely accept. I have done these things. So, don't you think that I have taken lives of others in tragic situations? Yes. Then do you think that if I crossed the road, I might not lose my life also in a tragic way? I might. But does it have to happen? It doesn't have to happen if what? If I don't create the environment for this karma, or now we don't call it a karma, for this vipaka to come to fruition, right? So just because we have done something doesn't mean we need to we need to get back the rewards or the punishment. We can avoid it. We can avoid it to a certain extent. Not everything, not completely, but to a certain extent we can do. So for example, if you are in a relationship and your partner always mocks you, it could happen, right? Or he insulted you or insults you, at least when you're having a fight. These are things, these are also, of course, also vipaka, right? These are things that come because you have given that. Maybe in this life or maybe before that. But actually, you know what can happen? The moment that you change your way of handling your partner, this is just an example I'm giving, you can take any other person as well. If you change the way you treat that person, what you actually do is you change the environment completely. Of the environment of the situation, and thereby you will see that if you change your mind, your mindset, the way you treat others, or the way, if you come to these sermons for some time and you develop mentally, you will see you don't no longer treat others in the same way than before. And then the environment will be changed, and therefore what you have given, it will be mostly the good things that you have given which will come back to you. No longer or less so the bad things, right? That's why we have this statement that people always treat you the way that you treat them. So in other words, the moment that you change what you send out to others, you change the environment of what comes back to you from all the things you have given, right? Of course, if you go to the streets and you hit somebody out of anger, now you are creating the perfect environment to get hit back, right? But if you don't do that, you're not creating the environment for this seed, for this karma that you have done to come back to you. And it doesn't have to. It doesn't ever have to, right? So even let's say you become an arahant, and like, for example, take the story of Angulimala. Didn't he kill 999 people in his last life? So wasn't that a lot of karma? Yeah, that was it was an extreme amount of karma. We could say it's a hell amount of karma in the truest sense of the word, right? It would have given him hell, definitely. That's even the Buddha said so. But why didn't he go to hell? He didn't go to hell because this karma is not something deterministic, right? It's not like you have done this and now you have to suffer the consequences, right? Otherwise, in the Buddhist times there were ascetics and there were people who tried they thought that final happiness can be found if I pay back all the sins that I have done. So then they try to make this process quicker by walking on fire, by torturing themselves, so that they could get all this pain that they have given, and once they have paid it back, then they were done. So this is what they thought, right? But the Buddha, he said, no, this is not the way it works. You don't have to pay back all your bad karma to be happy. The thing is, what you have to do is, once you understand the Dhamma, once you can free your mind from certain defilements, from raga, desha, moha, then you will no longer create the environment to attract the vipakas that you otherwise would have to suffer, right? So if you have anger in your mind, now then you are creating an environment to get back anger or pain, actually. Haven't you experienced that in your lives? Let's say when you're angry, let's say you woke up in the you wake up in the morning on a bad mood. Something has happened yesterday. Somebody has hurt you, or maybe your favorite cricket or football team has lost. I mean, I guess after the finals of World Cup, when Germany loses against France or especially the Netherlands, I think 50% of the country will wake up on a bad mood, right? And people will be a lot of complaining against each other in the bus. Hey, can't you walk straight? Can't you walk there? Why do you not watch the this and that? This will be the mood people have. So when you wake up in the morning with a bad mood, haven't you made this experience that once you have a bad mood, that even more bad things come to you, even more accidents happen to you? Yeah, that's what happens. But also the other way around, when you are really happy, when you're really pleasant, what tends to happen then? Actually, then you tend to get even more happier, right? So, for example, when you're happy, what do you do? I mean, how do others know that you're happy? Can they look into your mind? No, right? What can they see only? They can only see your face. They can only see your body. And how do we express happiness in our body? Smiling. Or something else, smiling. So when we are happy, we smile. And what does happen when we smile? What happens with others? They also smile. And when they smile to us, what happens with us? It makes us even happier, right? But what happens when we are sad and we are angry, and that's all we care, that's all we think about at this moment? the problem that I have and what happened to me and what happened yesterday and this and that and why did this person do that, and so we are running around like a robot, just focusing on the road and grim and not any smile, and we don't want to listen to others. And somebody comes to us and says, "Hey, did you know this and that?" No, please go away. Yeah. No, so what will he think or she? He's in a bad mood. Better not talk to this. He's not a good person to associate, right? So of course, do you think people will smile to you in this moment? No, they will not smile to you. So you're attracting more annoyances. Because you can see all of these things you have given, right? You have given smiles, you have given annoyances, you have given frustrations and bad looks to others. All these things we have given, but what we get back depends a lot on our mindset or the environment in which we are in. Not just our mindset, but that's one of the things, right? Mindset can be a huge factor. How we treat others, how we talk to them, the words we use, and all these things can make a huge impact in your relation, in your dealing with people. And this is the most crucial thing actually in terms of happiness. I think if you could only learn this one thing, if I could only learn this one thing in life, which is how to deal with people, life would be very easy. Because also what are most of our problems concerned with? People, either others or even myself, right? These are both people actually. So that's something we really have to learn, and the Dhamma helps us to do that. That's great. So I myself, I never learned this in school. Did you learn that in school, how to deal with people? But are you learning this in school? What are you learning in school? Geography? Mathematics? Do you learn it in mathematics? How to deal with people? Are you learning it in mathematics, how to deal with people? Normally they don't, right? When I was in school in mathematics, I learned how a right-angled triangle works and how this angles and hypotenuse and adjacent and the opposite and this kind of stuff. So I was really good in that, and I studied physics as well and mathematics, so I knew everything about geometry, even to the point, curved geometry, something like things we can't even grasp with our imagination. The things that Albert Einstein talked about. These things I learned. I knew very well, but if it comes to speaking with people, how to understand them, how to talk, what to say, what not to say, why they say what they say, why they don't say what they say, when they say this, what they actually mean when they say that. Because sometimes they say this, but they mean the other, right? I think for many, I don't want to say, I guess it is something both men and women have, and they can't understand each other. That's what they always say, at least in Germany. People always say that. The men say, I can't understand these women. They say one thing and they mean the other. Sometimes they say, okay, I'm going to go now. And what they actually want is for you to say that you shouldn't go. But men misunderstand these things, right? So these kind of things are there. So if you understand the Dhamma, you will understand what's going on, why it is going on, and what to do. That's the great thing. So, in this example that I gave you about now, I hope that you understood this point. The karma that we have done, we don't have to suffer it from that. It depends on the environment. For example, I was talking about the environment. So how does it work? We don't have to suffer from what we have given. It depends on whether the environment for that is available, suitable, present or not. I'll give you another example. sometimes when we are going in the night through a dark street, what can happen to us? Somebody might steal from us, try to rob us, or something else can happen, right? So, because that's the environment, a dark street, and maybe in a big city, in a dark corner of the city, and being there in the night, that's the environment for such kind of bad deeds to come back. But if you wouldn't go in the night through a dark street, you could avoid from coming to you, right? So that's why it's very important for you in your lives to be very careful what you do. And because your life is very precious. I think at the beginning I told you that yes, you might fall asleep here and there, and that is actually, if you understand, that's just lack of merit. That's fine. That's something you can change. It will change. It will improve, and so that's fine. But actually, in another sense, you are very, very meritorious, because the fact that you can listen to the Dhamma, that the real teaching of the Buddha, that is something that you can't even grasp in. I mean, I can't even explain in words the merits that you must have done to have this chance. All of us. The fact that you are born as a human in this time, in the time where the enlightened one's teachings exist, and that you found it, that you're born in a place where these things exist, and where you can listen to that, when you can practice that, means actually you have huge amounts of merits, right? That you should realize, and you should not be careless about this fact, because nature gives you something. Nature gives you a chance, but if you don't make use of it, it won't give you the same chance again easily, right? Because every chance you get, you have always earned that, right? So in other words, there's no free lunch. Yeah, if you don't make use of some things that you have, soon enough you will be gone. You will no longer have it, right? So it's the same in a relationship. If you can't appreciate the value of your partner, then soon enough the partner will find someone who can appreciate him or her for that. And soon enough, all your effort in making the relationship work, in acquiring whatever you have worked hard for, will be going down the drain, and you are left with nothing, right? So in other words, in that sense, the same applies to the Dhamma as well. So don't realize how extremely, extremely fortunate you are to have the chance to attain Nibbāna, to listen to this teaching, and to free yourself from all suffering that you can ever experience, and actually to find a solution to all your problems, any of them, mentally and physically as well, right? In other words, we can make sure that we have something we can do about whether we have to suffer bad karma or not. We can change that. That's why it's not deterministic. If you are careful, if you're driving carefully, if you're treating others in the right way, if you're not going out in the night into streets where everybody knows that you shouldn't go to, you can avoid a lot of bad things from happening to you, and therefore you can preserve your life and do the most out of it, because every minute counts. Do you know where you're going to be reborn when this life ends? Do you really know? Well, I don't want to scare you or anything, and we're not going to talk about this too much, but actually we don't know. So we might better make use of this fact that our human life we can create a lot of goodness, a lot of good karma at least. If not, we can attain Nibbāna. That's what will be the best solution to all of us. And that's what we can do right now. So for this, I really appreciate all of your effort every time that you come to to participate and engage in these merits. And you should see that it will lead you in the right direction. So, now, I hope now you understand this point about the environment and this thing. And there was another one thought that I had in my mind, which is when we come to this smiling. You see, there's one principle in life that you should always remember when it comes to your problems, when you have problems in your life. And this is the following thing. What we give is what we get, right? Okay. Now, if that's true, the moment you are focused only on your problem and what happened to you, life becomes incredibly difficult. Especially when when it comes to Nibbāna. So in our monastery, I learned this. For example, whenever we try to attain Nibbāna, whenever I try to attain Nibbāna, when I do this for myself, when I want to do this, then what happens? Then it becomes like a competition. Then you start comparing yourself with others. Am I already there or am I not already there? Look at where he or she already is. Look at where I already am. Then you get angry and you feel like, oh my God, still I'm getting angry. I should not become angry. Then you get even depressed about the fact that you get angry. And then, you're depressed, and then you're depressed about being depressed. So then everything is destroyed. So Nibbāna is not something that you can attain. That you need to understand carefully. Nibbāna is not something you can ever attain. Nibbāna is something that can be attained. That means the more you want to attain it, the less it will come to you. It's something like if this hand is your mind, if this hand is our mind, the moment we want to attain Nibbāna, it's like we are curling our hand to grasp for something, right? And then in that moment, actually, and the Nibbāna is like something that's always there. It's always there, happening all the time. But the moment that we curl our hand, that's the moment when it passes by and when it can't land here, right? So actually all we have to do is, the hand has to be there, just unfolded, just completely relaxed. When that happens, Nibbāna can simply come to you. It's not something that you can go to or you can achieve, which is completely opposite to everything else in life, right? When you want to become a doctor, you always do this. And at some point you have the doctor and you take it. And then you are that. And now you can say you became a doctor. That's something you can achieve by learning, by going after it, by working hard and working harder. And then, if you're lucky, if all the stars align, you will become a doctor. That is something we can do very easily. Achieving things is the most easy thing for all of us, which we are all sansaric minds. That's so easy. Just, it's so easy to make somebody achieve something. You just give him a view and he'll run and work hard and work harder and work even harder, and someday he will have achieved that. We all know how this works. But Nibbāna is something we don't know how it works, because the logic is not like that. You can't achieve it by working hard for that. You have to let it come to you, and you have to be pure enough for it to come. So that means the harder you want to achieve Nibbāna, it's all about me, it's all about the I, and then nothing will happen. Then you will stress yourself out for that. So therefore, this is not how it works. The way it has to work is by developing a certain mindset. And this is an attitude I want you to understand. And that is, if ever in your life you have problems and these problems bother you, the more important it is that you are in a problem. What will happen if you are in a problem? What do we do when we feel that we are in a problem? Let's say we were at work and somebody has hurt us. Maybe somebody has said something to us. And now we're going home, and now we're at home. And then let's say there's our little Buddha is running around, our son or daughter is running around, and is asking, "Can you play with me? Can you cook something, or let's play a game?" Now, when in your mind still you have this, what happened to you and the things somebody said to you, what do you feel like doing? I mean, I say our feeling would be something like we would like to take a bar of chocolate, go into our bed below the blanket and lie down, maybe listen to music and sleep, or maybe just eat chocolate, or I don't know whatever we do. Because now we are in a problem, and that's what matters most. So if our child or if anyone else in the world now comes to us, that's the wrong moment, right? That's not the moment I can do. I want to know about this, right? Because I am in my own problem, and the world should know that. The world should respect that, right? Now, exactly this attitude is the biggest enemy. In other words, actually what you should do in this moment is not what your mind tells you to do. If you want to come out of this problem of these things that have happened, the things that happen at work when somebody said something to you, the worst thing you can do is simply eat a chocolate and indulge in what your mind tells you to do and how bad the world is, or how bad this person is, or how much you are suffering and how much so and so and so. That's not where you can solve your problem. But actually, that is the opportunity you need to realize, okay, even though I am in a problem, even though I am not feeling well, who cares? Who cares at the first place? I mean, I'm not talking about this is not an attitude, this is not Nibbāna, right? This is not a Buddha mindset, this is Bodhisattva mindset. What I'm just talking right now, right? This is the attitude the Bodhisattva had. When he had a problem, he was not a Buddhist, so he had a problem. But what did he do? Do you think he cared about the fact that he had a problem? He didn't care. So even somebody came to him and asked him for help, and he didn't want to help, but he wanted to eat a chocolate. He didn't eat the chocolate, he went and helped. Because he didn't take himself more serious. I mean, he tried not to take himself serious at all, and what he wanted. Is that something easy to do? No, right? This is the most hardest thing to do. This is a very hard thing to do. But imagine what you do. Think about the situation and imagine what would happen. One way is you go to bed, you take your chocolate, you take some music, you listen to some music which calms you down. And then maybe next day you're feeling good again. After the chocolate, you're feeling good again, right? The thing is, the chocolate, how many calories? 0.5, right? Yes. So what does your body say? What would your body say if he could speak? He would say, "Why did you do that? Once is okay. Okay, I get it. Once you can do that. But don't do it again, please." Right? Okay, so the body would not be very happy, but that's fine. The thing is, what happened in our mind? What happens in our mind, our thinking when we do this? The thing is, in our mind, we are applying the 4 non-noble truths. All the way we are applying the 4 non-noble truths. Or we could also call them the 4 lies. 4 samsaric truths, which is, the reason why I'm unhappy now is because of this person, and he did something to me. Therefore, the pain comes from him. Therefore, I should now do something which can make me happy again. For example, eating a chocolate, because that has happiness. So we do that. So when all this event is finished, what is our mindset like on the next day? Do you think we like this person more than before? Do you think it's now easier to be with this person than before? No. So there's a stronger aversion against this, and there's a stronger attachment towards the things we like, and a stronger drive to come away from the things we don't like. So in other words, the conflicts will increase, of course. Do you think it will be the last time that you get hurt? No, because you go back to work with this idea that I really don't want him to do this again. And if he does at least even a bit of it, I'll get really mad. Now, he will do it again, and even more so will it make you angry. Even more so will you be upset. And then what will you do? Then the next chocolate will come. And then the next chocolate, and then the next chocolate. And so, someday your body will say, yeah, you see, that's not what I wanted. Right? Because this is not a way you can solve problems with this approach. And I might go into more detail later today. So the point is, this way of solving problems is so temporary only. For this moment you can achieve a solution, but actually you're setting yourself up for a big disaster. Actually you're ruining your life step by step when you think in this way. And not to think in this way, actually you need to you have to listen to the Dhamma, and you need to realize, and you need to know there's another way. Right? Otherwise it's not possible to come out of this easily. So now think about the other alternative. What you can always do, even if you don't comprehend anicca, dukkha and anatta, is having a bodhisattva mentality. How is this mentality? Your child comes to you and asks you, can we play a game together? And you don't feel like doing it. You feel like eating a chocolate and maybe sometimes telling your child off for coming to you. Now, if you ignore the fact that you have a problem, at least in this moment, what will happen? You can go and play, and when you play, after a while, you have forgotten. At least you have forgotten that you had a problem. And you have at least a pleasant mind again. And you have given something. You haven't screamed to your child, or you haven't told your son off, because isn't he innocent at this moment? What does he have to do with the fact that somebody said something to you and that you are hurt? Nothing, right? So do you think he deserves a telling off for asking you to play a game? He doesn't deserve anything. He's very innocent. He just wants to ask you if you want to play with him. It's so innocent. But most of all, the thing is, what happens with us, naturally, when our mind goes on overdrive, when all these pressures start building up and we don't know what to do, we take it out on people who are so innocent, right? Because they are just the last bit, they are just there when we can no longer handle our mind, right? So that happens. And if it has happened to you, then welcome to the club. It happened to me as well. I told about the two things, right? These were the two events where I did something that was completely the wrong way how to deal with my anger, right? Because I had an anger, and this was a problem I had, and he or she didn't respect that. Therefore, I had to change him or her. Make him shut up. Make him be quiet. Make him low so I can feel high. And for the moment it worked, but what wounds were created in the other person, which had to heal, which maybe never heal, right? So what wounds do we inflict to our son or our daughter in that moment? We don't know that. But we can avoid that by realizing what the right mentality is. And of course, even if that has happened, or even if this should happen to you, then there's no point in feeling guilty about these things. Then all you can do is you say sorry, you apologize. That's a great thing to do. With this you can do a lot. You can repair the relationship, or at least you can repair yourself to a certain extent. Right? And then that's okay. Learn from the mistakes, and things will be okay. Actually, things are not completely okay at all. You have to still realize your mind is still running with 4 ignoble truths, 4 non-noble truths, or we could better say it, 4 lies, the samsaric lies, and that's a problem that has always been with you, and it is still with you, and it will still be with you unless you realize the Dhamma, and now you have something like a highway, or we could say it's like, I don't know if you know Harry Potter. In Harry Potter there is, I have been in King's Cross in London, and there are many platforms, right? But can you find platform 9 3/4 there in reality? I'm saying? No, you can't, right? It's not there. So you can't see that. You can see platform 9 and 10 and 11 and 8 and 7 and 6 and so on when you go there. So on the first look, that's how it looks. That's what everybody sees. But if you're a magician, you know in one more way, right? You know something others don't. You know that if you take a bus, a trolley, and if you very quickly, if you run into this pillar, between 9 and 10, this one pillar, what will happen? You will come to another platform. This is like the samadrushti. Samadrushti, the Buddha is talking about, is like a path that it's not visible to normal people who haven't listened to the Dhamma and understand the Dhamma. But once you have access to this path, you can actually use the Hogwarts Express out of your problem. Or better to say, if you are on that platform, problems cannot come to you at all. Wouldn't that be the best thing, actually? You're living a life where problems don't even arise. Anything that happens, it doesn't happen. Like, the Buddha was something like that. He was a magician. Not in the literal way. He was also very normal. He was also nature, just like we all are nature. But because he was on the platform 9 3/4, problems never happened to him. Never. Even though he had to live in the world and do all the things in the world, now no anger, no hurtful feelings, sadness, anger, fears, upsetness, all these things didn't happen to him. So, if at least you know how to take that path to that platform, then you're already a great step ahead. Because from there onwards, if you have a problem, now you can you can use that path and come out of it. And while you're on that path, while you're on that platform, you don't have to experience these feelings, right? That's what we call a seka. Seka means Sotapanna, Sakudagami, Anagami. These are the ones who they know a path, but they're not always on platform 9 3/4, right? They know how to get there, and if they are in a problem, they can take that, or even they know they can take it anyway. It's not like they can take it whenever they want, because in nature nothing works according to what you want or what you don't want, because everything is cause and effect. But this path can be taken in the right situation, when the right environment and when all the causes align. This path will be taken and problems don't arise. And then that mind is in the what we call the Buddha Bhumya in Sinhala. So that means that is the plane of the Buddha. This is not actually like, it's not like there's a world where the Buddha is there and you can meet him. Not like that, right? This is nonsense. In that sense that the Buddha is somewhere in another world and you can meet him as a person, something like that. No. It's simply your mind has a mindset which has the knowledge and the awareness of the truth. And then no problems happen. Right? That in that mindset no problems happen. And this is where we want to get to. This is why you are doing the merits. Why you are doing the merits, why you should do the merits, because it's totally possible to achieve that. Still, you can say, because the sasana will still be there for 2,500 years. So this is something that my teacher has shown me how to do that. That doesn't mean that I'm always on platform 9 3/4. Far away from that. but at least understanding how to do that, and understanding actually just your life, understanding my life, that's enough. Then you know where you have to go, right? So you see, the four non-noble truths are something we all practice every moment, right? You need to understand what are these four non-noble truths, and you need to understand, and then you will also understand what are the four noble truths. Or otherwise, if you understand what are the four noble truths, you will also understand what are the four non-noble truths. Non-noble truth means, actually these are not truths at all. They are so-called truths. They are called truths in exerted comma. Which means something like apparent truths. Apparent. That's how it appears to be, right? That's how it seems to be. But actually, it is not at all like this, right? That's why I put this inverted comma. Because they are not true, they are lie, but seem to be true. That's why we practice them. Because we think they are true, but they are not actually true. That is what we call, that's why the Buddha talks about avidya. What's avidya? Ignorance. What does that mean, ignorance? You think that what is true is wrong, and what is wrong is right. What is wrong is right, and what is right is wrong, right? So that's how my teacher once explained. Avidya is something like multiplying with -1. So this is avidya. You take 3, and what does it do? It makes -3 out of this. So in other words, if I say this is blue, avidya will say this is not blue, this is maybe green. If I say this is 3, avidya will say no, this is -3, right? Similarly, it will twist the reality. That's avidya. It's like inverting what is right to what is wrong, and what is wrong to what is right. Simply spoken, the most simple way to explain avidya is the view that happiness is there in the world, and happiness can be found in the world. That is avidya. That is a very, very general description. We have to understand the details as well. But when our mind accepts this point of view, happiness, pleasure, beauty is something which exists in outside things, that's when the whole trouble starts. Not just beauty and pleasure, right? Because also, like, let's take this situation when I'll try to explain you how to come out of this, how this person who has been at work and has been hurt by someone, coming home and the sun comes, I will try to explain how to come out of this problem using the Four Noble Truths. I don't know how far I can get today, because we have to cover the basics and see how we go, but anyways, it will be really beneficial to you to understand more and more about how I should start to think about what's really happened. And then, little by little, it will click for you, and you can actually do that. And then you don't have to do anything to come out of a problem other than contemplating in your mind, coming to awareness of the truth, right? So you see, avidya means, or what we call miccha drushti, wrong view. Happiness is there in the outside world, and also, likewise, it means something else as well. Suffering is also there in the outside world, okay? When I'm saying outside world, I mean outside things, okay? What are things? Well, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thoughts, okay? For example, when we are talking about this example, isn't there things that people can say to you to make you happy? For example, what about a nice compliment? What about an appreciation? These are words, these are sounds, right? Sounds which apparently do what to you? Bring you happiness, right? Because, of course, I get it. If somebody tells you, Mrs., Mr., you have done a fantastic job today. I'm so proud of you. Or if your parents said this to you, or if your co-worker said this to you. Now, what do you feel? Happiness, of course. Yeah, that's okay. I'm not saying you shouldn't, right? That is true. But there's an interpretation that we do, we interpret this pleasure, this happiness, this happy feeling that we feel, we interpret it in a certain way, right? How do we interpret it? My boss today, he has appreciated me. Okay, yeah, he did that. So? And of course, that felt good. So in other words, the appreciation or that sound did what? It brought happiness to me. It has happiness. These are the sounds which have happiness. Right? That's why these are the sounds we want to hear from others, right? When we go into a relationship, don't we expect certain sounds from the other person? Something that we feel is an expression of love, appreciation, honey, you look good today, that sort of things. If that wouldn't, ask yourself, if these things would not be said by the other person, would you want to live? Would you consider that? Why would you still want to be with this person if he doesn't give you sounds, certain sights, and also if he doesn't give you certain other sights, right? For example, leaving the toilet seat. I don't know. This joke works in Europe, at least. I don't know. Leaving the toilet seat up. That's something I know many women in Germany would complain if the man does that. But I learned actually here that it means something else in Sri Lanka. Because this is a fun fact. I'll just, because I need to explain this. In Europe or in Germany at least, I can say, if the toilet seat is up, it means the man didn't even have the care to put it back for others to use, because women can't use the toilet like that, right? Women have to put it down and then use it. But if it's not putting down, that means he doesn't even spend a moment to think about his wife or his partner, right? Because he only cares about doing his own business. So in that sense, we consider it as something rude. But I learned here in Sri Lanka, it's actually very different. Here, at least many times, even when I was a monk and I went to a school for giving a sermon, I went to the principal's office toilet, and I found even the toilet seat there up. And then I realized there's no mistake in here. This can't be an accident. This must be intended. And what's the message there? And then I realized the message is, Swaminathan said, look, it's as clean as it can be. There's nothing dirty here, right? Something like that. So actually the message is totally a different one, right? But the same thing. So actually this is another example where you can realize it's just the toilet seat in a certain position. What is good or bad about this? Right? For example, if a woman in one part of the world looks at this toilet seat and says, oh my God, there's something wrong with this. This is something upsetting. This is something bad in the seed. Is it true? Or is it not all her own? I mean, it's something her mind creates based on the views and what she expects and everything, right? It's not in the seed. Because maybe in Sri Lanka or in another part of the world, the wife would be very happy to see that. Right? The same situation, one woman says, or one person says, gives me happiness, and the other says, it upsets me. The toilet seat, right? But is it really in the toilet seat? No, it's just an event, just an experience, right? It doesn't have either something good, nor does it have anything bad. And just as much anything else in this world, right? So let's come back to this this complaint or this appreciation. We believe that appreciations, yes, my boss appreciated me. Okay, this is something that can happen. But what is good about that intrinsically? What is good intrinsically about an appreciation? This is why once I asked some of you in one of the sermons before, if somebody were to appreciate you all the time, every moment, every minute, wouldn't you feel irritated by that? Wouldn't you get annoyed by somebody appreciating? Let's say if there's a woman and she gets stalked by someone, and this man can't live without her and always trying to tell her how great she is. I mean, I wouldn't want to live with somebody who always tells me how great I am, because it's boring, right? It's nice at the beginning, but then after a while, it's boring. Then we have to ask ourselves one question. If an appreciation has happiness, if it's in the words, should it not always give you this feeling whenever you hear this word? Right? But does it? No. Right? It doesn't. Then can this be right? No, it's not. It can't be right. Because if happiness or feeling good or pleasure or beauty, however you want to call it, if it exists in that sound, then it should be like that. Appreciations are something good. And criticism is something bad. Isn't that what we feel? When somebody comes home and says, today this person criticized me a lot, then what do we usually think? Oh, that's okay, come and tell me about it, let's talk about it, and you'll feel okay. We would never say, if somebody tells us, criticized, we would never say, that's good, let's have a coffee and have a beer or something and let's party. No, right? We would never say that. But if somebody would say, oh, today somebody appreciated me and that was a great thing that happened, now we have a reason to celebrate. Now we have a reason to share our joy with everyone, because we immediately consider an appreciation as something good that has happened. Isn't it? Right? But let's ask nature. Let's ask nature what really happened in both cases. What was there? Words were uttered, okay? Words were uttered. Criticism was uttered. Criticism came to you, but did the criticism have pain? No, it didn't have pain. And how about the appreciation? When that came to you, did it have happiness inside? So which of these two is more valuable then? Same, right? Just events. As I'm working in the school as well, I can give you another example for the student. For example, when the students come to me, they show me their paper. Look, teacher, what I have done. I have done all these exercises. And then I say, good job. Or I say something, yeah, that's all correct. And then they say, Actually, that means they are actually vexing, right? That means they are vexing. They want something. They want me to do something now. What is it that they want me to do? They want me to do this. Right? Why? Because when they see this, they feel happiness comes from there. They want to see this, right? They want this sight. This is the one thing that this mind has, right? That's what this mind. That's when the student does. Can you please write this, right? Because the mind at this moment, it wants to see something special. What is it? It wants to see this sight. Why? Why does it want to see this sight? Why can't it not be happy to see what it is already seeing? Why? Because it believes that what I'm seeing is doesn't contain as much happiness as when I could see this, right? Therefore, it wants this. So at this moment, the mind has a wrong view, it is the wrong view that now in this statement, this is a very beautiful or very good, very happy, very pleasurable sight. And I want to enjoy this. I want to have this now. But I can't have it right now. So teacher, please, 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 can you do that? So now let's think about this student at this moment. How does he feel before he can experience, if I am kind enough to give him that compliment, before he can experience this one, how does he feel in his mind? When he's doing this, somebody who's doing like this, how does he feel? He's begging, right? He's begging. Why? Because in his mind he is suffering, right? Suffering, vexation. Vexation because of that, right? So as the Buddha has explained, now imagine, this student has a belief. What's the belief? This appreciation has happiness. Because of this belief, what has happened? What has happened with his mind at this moment? He believes that this good work, this sight, has happiness. Now, what happened automatically? He wants to experience that, right? In other words, wanting has happened. Wanting has happened. He wants to experience what he believes has happiness. Now, how does it make us feel when we want something? And we have discussed this with some of you already before, but now I want you to think about, how does this student feel in the moment before, the moment he's asking me, he's begging, not that I want to say anything, I can feel for the student and he deserves a compliment, that's okay. But still there's a problem here. Because of this wanting, now what has happened? He feels some sort of vexation. Vexation means some kind of internal stress, unsatisfaction, nervousness, tension. That's what he's expressing when he's shaking his hands like that, right? He feels, I'm not okay 100%, right? Like that. Have you ever been to the dentist or to some kind of a doctor when you had to wait 2 hours, 3 hours? Sometimes you have to wait for 2 hours, 3 hours, and then you are sitting there and you have finished reading one magazine, and then you have to go to the next one. Still the doctor doesn't come, and you shake your legs like this, then you shake it on the other side, and you go up and stand, and then you sit down again, and then after a few minutes you feel bored and you watch on your phone, there's no news, no WhatsApp messages, you close it again, a few minutes later, you open it again. So, actually, if you really look at it closely, it's a tragedy, right? It's a tragedy that we never talk about, but how much we are suffering just waiting for the dentist. And don't you suffer when you wait for the dentist? Yes. Everyone. Why? Because our mind is ignorant. Because our mind has a condition that makes us completely, it's like some evil creatures are brewing up some kind of cocktail within our mind, and then once in a while, like a volcano, it explodes, and we have to treat it somehow. And then we do it for a moment, and then a few minutes later, we have to do it again. So that's why. Why do we have to take our phones out? I mean, try not to take your phone out for a while. Try not to look at your phone when you're waiting for the dentist for 1 hour. Try it only once. Then you know what your mind is really like. Then you know your mind it's like it has a rash. It has a rash. And you need to keep scratching, otherwise you couldn't live. This is the reality. But most people in this world, they don't even realize that, right? They just keep scratching and living as everything is fun and great. No problem is there. But actually, if I see myself in waiting for the dentist or anyone else, I can cry. I'm so sad. But most of my life, no one has ever told me or pointed out what really happens in our mind and how much we actually suffer without realizing that. And all of this is unnecessarily, actually. All of this is unnecessary. When you come to awareness of the Four Noble Truths, you don't have to suffer. You can wait at the dentist peacefully. But we need to get there step by step, right? So today I'm going to help you realize a few things which will help you to contemplate on this thing, and little by little you will be able to realize and achieve this kind of situation. So coming back to this, now we need to understand, we need to look exactly into our minds to understand why do we feel this tension in our mind, this vexation in our mind, like this. Why does the student feel this vexation? Please give me this appreciation. Is it because it comes like this from the situation? Is it something that the world gives us? Is it from the world that we feel this vexation? Is it? I asked this to you in one of the very first sermons. Waiting for Christmas or waiting for something to happen, waiting for our friend to come home, waiting for our partner to come home, waiting for our children to come back to our home after they have been traveling for a while. Is it because that is something hard? Is waiting something hard? Is this the waiting that makes us suffer, or is it, so what I want to ask you here in this situation, this student wants something. If he wouldn't want that, what would be with him at that moment? No vexation, right? So this vexation is not coming from what happens to you, the situation that you're in your life. It is because of the wanting that it happens, and you can also understand what happens when the wanting is really high. For example, let's say tomorrow there's a new iPhone that comes out, a very new iPhone. Aren't there people who want it so much so that they would queue up in front of the iPhone Apple store and get it, even not sleeping the whole night? Right. But would everyone feel like that? No. Some people don't care at all, right? Because why? Because they don't see any value, or they don't believe that the iPhone has any intrinsic value, right? So therefore they don't want it. So therefore they don't have any vexation. So therefore if tomorrow comes, or if the iPhone comes delayed, what if it doesn't come tomorrow? What would happen with such a person? Nothing. he would be as peaceful, as cute as a cucumber before and meanwhile and after. But a person who believes that this iPhone has happiness, has a lot of happiness, now what does it do? Can he sleep in the night? No. What if somebody takes, let's say he's queuing up in front of the Apple store, and then in the last minute, there are 10 guys come and they push him away and they go in front of him in the queue? What would he feel in this moment? Very vexed. His vexation would go even higher. What about he's going inside and they don't have any iPhones anymore? He'd be vexed. What if he's queuing up and they say, we didn't get the delivery, you have to come back in 1 week? His vexation would go even higher, right? So in other words, this vexation has nothing to do with the world and the situation. It comes purely out of the wanting. And this one comes necessarily out of the belief that happiness is something in that experience. Which is, of course, as I tried to explain you, it's just a belief. It's not like that. Good work is just an experience, just an event. Even if I say bad work, is that something that gives suffering to people? If the teacher writes, you did really bad today, shame on you, then is that something that creates sadness in people? No, right? Sometimes in my school, I know, me, myself, or others, actually I was a good student, but some teenager years I was a bit of a rebel. Then in that moment, sometimes if a teacher would write bad work, I would say, yes, I got it. This is what I wanted to get. Right? So then can you say bad work has any suffering? It doesn't. Happiness happens if what we want happens. These two things together have to align. Suffering happens if what we don't want happens. So you can't talk about suffering without what you want. How do you do that? Because all of these things are created in your mind alone, not in the words. Not in the words, not in the sight, not in the sound, smell, taste, touch and thought. None of these things have any happiness or suffering. These are just events, and that's it. And none of them are more valuable than others, right? They all have the same value. What is more valuable? Instead of watching a movie, you get to watch the wall for 2 hours. So would you pay $10 for 3,000 rupees for watching the wall? No, but you would pay $10 or 300 or maybe at least 1,000 rupees for watching some kind of a movie, right? How? Now you can see, okay, something is here. Something is here, right? So, the only point now you just have to understand is, okay, now everything makes sense, but then what's this happiness that I'm feeling when I'm experiencing this good work? What does the student feel when he sees this sight, good work? When he sees that, what does really happen? Because we understood now, right, that it doesn't come with the words. It doesn't come with what I do. I don't create happiness on the paper. I can't. I don't have happiness with me. How can I write it on the paper? I just have a red pen. The red pen, I can do whatever. I can write something. But I can't create happiness on this paper. So then how can this person, this student, get happiness from seeing that? That can't be done. Then what happens? What happens is, since the student or since that mind is waiting for something that it believes has happiness, what happened with it? Now it's vexed. When it gets what it wants, when it finds what it searches for, when you find what you're looking for, so let's say you're looking for something, the moment that you find it, do you still need to look for it? No, right? You need to look for something when you don't have it, but the moment you find it, you don't have to look for it anymore. In other words, there's a mind searching for something, wanting something, urging to have something, and as long as it is not there, it's urging and therefore burning and burning and burning. the moment that it finds what it wants, what is it? What will it stop to do? The moment it finds what it believes or what it looks for, what it is searching for, it will just stop looking. The wanting itself will stop the moment you have found what you are looking for. And when your wanting stops, when you no longer have to look for what you believe has happiness, of course also the vexation will stop. The vexation, the pressure will stop, not because this object has stopped your vexation or killed your vexation, simply because now you have found what you want and you are no longer wanting it in this moment. Because you believe, this is what I wanted, now I have it, so I don't have to look for it anymore. I mean, when you're looking for, let's say, a book in your house, you're going from one room to the other. You're going into this room and then you look around and you don't find it. So what will you do? You'll go to the next room. Now in the next room, if you find it there, if you don't find it there, what will you do? You go to the next room. But if in one of these rooms you find this book, when you have this book into your hand, will you say, okay, now let me try the next room? No, you will not. You will say, okay, now I found it, so I don't have to do anything anymore. So your wanting will stop because what you were looking for, you found. And when the mind stops wanting, what this wanting produces will also no longer be produced. And therefore, the pressure, the vexation, the stress will reduce. That's all. And that's what feels good. It is simply the stress which was there no longer being there or reducing, going away. It's like, this example, when you take your hand, you can do this experiment with me together, now you will understand. Now when you have this hand, do you feel happiness at this moment? I mean, think about your hand itself. I'm sure most of you, if you haven't touched, a hot object yesterday night, or if you haven't, when you were cooking something, maybe you burned yourself, unless that has happened, right now what you should feel is pretty much relaxed. Do you feel anything specifically happy or pleasant about your hand? No. Do you feel any pain or anything in the hand? No, it's just neutral, right? Good. Now let's take a finger and let's pull it backwards a little bit stronger. So, what do you feel now? Pain. Or what we call vexation. Now, release it. What happens? How do you feel now? Feels good, right? Is it because happiness came from somewhere into your hand, or there was happiness created right now, or what happened? Do you still feel it now? Now let's wait for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Is it still there? No. So now you're back at the beginning, right? You're back at where you were at the beginning. You have a hand. It's not happy, it's not sad, it's just how it is. So what happened was, you flinch back your finger, and what you got was vexation, pain. That was real. And then you stopped flinging back the finger. What happened? The vexation which has built up, has reduced, right? That's why if you flinch it back for a very, very long time, very strongly, and you release it at this moment, how will that feel? Let's say, and take another example, you take a bag of cement, you put it onto your shoulder, and you walk with it, let's say just for 2 meters, and then you drop it. How do you feel? Feels good. But now instead of that, you take the cement bag and you walk from here for 1 kilometer, and then you drop it. Will you feel same happiness in both cases? Why does it, in which of these cases does it feel more happy? When you walk for 2 meters or when you walk for 1 kilometer? 1 kilometer, right? How come? Is it something like the more you walk, this cement bag will generate more happiness in itself and then it will reward you more? Let's say you walk for 1 kilometer, but someone helps you and supports you. So now you walk 1 kilometer, but somebody has carried it for you. And now you drop it. Will you feel happiness? But you walked for 1 kilometer. You should be happy now. The further you walk, the more happy you are, right? Does it depend on how much you walk? No, it only depends on how much you suffer. That's what matters, because it's nothing more than suffering goes away. When there's no vexation, what can you release, right? If there's no vexation to release, then you can't feel this release of vexation. In other words, you can't have in other words, there will be no pleasure. Because there's no such thing called pleasure there's no such thing called pleasure actually. It's always just this. It's just suffering goes away. So actually in this world we can't talk about happiness, we just can't talk about suffering, and suffering goes away, which means there's only one kind of thing. Suffering is there, that's real. But when it goes away, that's how it is interpreted or felt as a pleasant feeling. Or that's what we call pleasure, because it is pleasant if suffering goes away, but we can't say that it is pleasurable, that there's something called happiness, pleasure in there, right? So it doesn't matter how far you walk, only what matters is how vexed you are, how painful, how, like, one person has a very weak body, now he can go maybe he'll walk only for 20 meters, and he'll be already in so much pain that when he drops the cement bag, he'll be feeling the big relief. But then there's a very muscular man who can walk for 2 kilometers and he doesn't even feel much pain at that time. And then when he drops the cement bag after 2 kilometers, he doesn't even feel that much happiness as the frail small lady who carried the cement bag for 20 meters. Now, why? Because it's not in how much you walk, it's not in the object, it's always just how much is the vexation there, right? That's how much the pleasure will be. But because this pleasure, let's say, what the student really actually experiences when the teacher writes good work is nothing more than he has found what he wants, or this mind has found what it was looking for, and as much and as hard and as much as it has wanted it, that much this vexation was there, that much it was suffering, and that much the suffering has released. And that's what this pleasure was. But the problem with all of this is the way we interpret the whole thing, completely wrong. Completely wrong. We interpret this thing as, the teacher has given me this happiness, it's this sight which has this happiness. Thanks to this sight, now I have found this happiness. This happiness came from this sight into me. So happiness can be found, or there are sights in this world which are very, very happy. There are pleasurable sights in this world, and there are unpleasurable sights. Right? Now because this is how the mind has started. It wanted the compliment because of the happiness that comes from the compliment. Now it wanted it, now it was suffering for it, now it got it, and now it got the proof that, yes, of course, what I wanted and what I believed is completely true, so now I got it. Now it makes sense, everything makes sense. So therefore, the mind is even more convinced that, if my teacher appreciates me, that can give me happiness. So therefore, next morning, next day, this student will vex again for getting an appreciation from his teacher. And he'll be upset if it doesn't come. He can't enjoy everything, right? Can he enjoy all the events in the world? No. Because the moment that one particular site has happiness, or the moment that happiness is in outside objects, now you can say this object has this amount of happiness, this object has this amount of happiness, this one has suffering inside, this one has a lot of suffering inside. So if I stay with this person in one room, I'll get stressed. But if I stay with this person in one room, I get really stressed. So I really don't want that, and I don't want that. But I want to be with this person. So now, can you really enjoy your life after that? Because now you always think about, how can I get these? How can I make sure I don't get these? So the student can't enjoy looking at this blank piece of paper, right? Or like my teacher always says, can an artist enjoy a blank canvas? Let's say this is a canvas and I were to clean this. Can an artist enjoy this? No. Because he believes that there are images that can be drawn which have happiness. So I don't want to see this. I want to see that other thing. So in other words, he wants to change this thing. He's suffering to experience a blank canvas. Because he believes that there are some sides which have happiness and then there are some which have less. Therefore, now you are trapped. Now you can't escape suffering whatsoever. Right? So, applying this to the other situation, when we are talking about what happened at work, you know the story when you come home and your son is asking you to play, but you don't want because somebody has said something. If whenever somebody said something to you which upset you, did that pain that you experience from that words, does it really come from the words? No. It was merely a pain that happened in your mind because of it was not the words that your mind was looking for in that moment. Right? So, therefore the problem is not the words. The problem is not the other person. The problem is this thing. And the other thing is, that was an event when you come home. That was an experience which has already long time happened. It happened, let's say, when you were at work at 4 p.m., somebody said something to you. And that moment you feel pain. But when it's 7 p.m., when you're at home, does that sound still exist? The sound, the words, the experience, it no longer exists. And actually that pain also doesn't exist anymore. Right? That pain also doesn't exist anymore. All that you have right now is only a memory. It's only the memory of what has happened. Right? Because I don't know how much, this might be too much, but I'll try to explain this just so you get an idea. And little by little you can understand this. But this will give you the full picture of what has happened in that situation when the mother has or not the mother, sorry, whoever the person coming home. So you see, the mind has a very peculiar property. The mind is a process. Your mind is a process. In other words, it is continuously happening. It's not a thing actually. It's something that's what we call arising and passing away. So when you have this anicca vata sankharo slogan, what's the second stanza of that line, of that gatha? Upada vaya dhammino. Upada vaya dhammino means, upada means udavaya vima, arising and passing away, right? In other words, the sound that you know, when I started the sermon, the sound of the microphone, or you know, when we were chanting Buddhaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi, these sounds, where is this sound now? Does it still exist? No. What happened yesterday? Is that still there? The people you saw yesterday, the sights, the sounds, the smell, all these things, are they still there? No. All that can happen is, in this moment, a memory can be perceived. But a memory is not the sight, right? And memory is not the sound. If you let's say you went to let's say Europe on a trip, I don't know, or you went somewhere in the country, maybe to Sigiriya or somewhere, and when you were there, you can see everything in full definition, right? But when you memorize your trip, do you see it in the same resolution and quality? No, because a memory is a memory and the sight is a sight, right? So in other words, the sound has happened. Your coworker maybe has said something to you, but this happened at 5 p.m. Now it is 7 p.m. So actually that mind or this thought, this chitta, has already long passed away. It no longer exists. And together with this, also the pain that you experience in this moment no longer exists. The pain that you experience right now in this moment is something that happens right now in this moment. Not because of what has happened in the past. Right? This, at 7 p.m., if you still suffer at 7 p.m. because of what has happened at 5 p.m., you actually don't suffer because of what has happened at 5 p.m. because that's already gone. You suffer because of something that happens right now. Right? And what happens right now, there's a memory of what has happened. There's a memory of what has happened. And that memory is something that you don't like. Because you think there are such things called bad memories. This was bad when it happened, and likewise thinking about what has happened, this bad thing also is bad. Let's say, aren't there people, when they have experienced something bad in the past, for example, let's think about abuse. I mean, actually, this is the answer to all these problems, like, say, abuse, when somebody gets abused by another person. Doesn't it normally cause suffering for their whole lifetime, for many years? Maybe the physical pain is something that goes away after a few weeks. Or there was never any physical pain, maybe. Could happen, right? But the mental pain, it can stay for a very long time. Now the reason why it happens is, we always believe that somebody can inflict a pain on me, and now I have this pain, this wound, this trauma is here with me, and now I have to live with this. But the mind doesn't work like this. The mind is not a thing that you can hurt, and now it has a pain and you have to carry it away. It's always arising and passing away. So actually, if somebody who has experienced abuse, if he would only understand that the mind is always arising and passing away, then he or she would realize that the pain I'm feeling right now is not because of the past, it is because of a wanting that happens right now in this mind concerning what it wants to experience. And what it wants to experience is certain memories, or certain sights, certain sounds, certain smells, certain thoughts. And what it doesn't want to experience at all is the memory of what has happened. Because we always believe that memories can be good or bad, right? Similarly to how you feel that sights can be good or bad, don't you also feel that memories can be good or bad? If I were to ask you to remember something, for example, when somebody cooked something for you, maybe the holiday with your family, when your children, some event with your children, or when you married, or I don't know, something. Don't you feel like this is a good memory? Don't you feel like this memory makes you feel good? So I always think like this when I contemplate on this example. I always imagine somebody like Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi, very famous people. They have won the World Cup and the Champions League, these kind of trophies, many times, right? So likewise, if they were to look at the pictures of what has happened, if they were to remember all these wins, these victories, seems like that makes them happy, right? When they think about these things. Or think about, and then I ask myself, if I were to think about this memory, this good memory, let's say for 3 hours, if I were to ask you, take a memory, a really good memory that you have in your life, okay? Now think about this memory for 3 minutes, non-stop. Just this memory. Think about it for 1 hour. If this memory has happiness, even after 30 minutes, this same memory should make you feel really pleasant, right? For example, when I came home, something that my parents liked to do with us was watching videos when I was a kid. Like when we all were kids, we went to Poland to my mother's family, and we were on the countryside, and the chicken were running around, the dogs, and we were playing in the fields, and I was a small boy, so we watched these kind of videos. So we have, for every year that we were there, we have one cassette, right? So now we can go and we can remember all these memories. But if this memory have happiness, now I should be able to watch one cassette 5 times in a row and enjoy that all the time, right? I mean, we can do this once in a while. We can watch these cassettes every 6 months. But could you watch these memories every day? So even memories, if memories have happiness, then you should be able to watch it every day, or even 5 times in a row, the same cassette. Or you should remember the same memory, let's say the best memory you have, the best memory in your life. You should remember this for 2 hours, and the more you remember it, you should feel more and more happy. But is it like that? No, right? It's only, what happens is actually, this memory is just a memory. It doesn't have any happiness nor suffering. But when it comes in contact with your mind, depending on how much you want to see it, the vexation is released. And if it's something you don't want to think about, that much you will be upset about it, right? So actually, the answer to abuse, let's say there's a girl, for the sake of the example, who has endured an abuse in the past, and now she wants to have this freedom from this pain that she has, freedom from this suffering every day, this trauma that she feels she has. The answer is this: to realize that your mind is not a thing, it's a process that arises and passing away. This pain that you feel, you might think that it comes from what has happened to you, and you also think that when you experience that, it was inflicted to you by another person, when that also was not the truth. That's another story. But in this moment, the pain you feel is not coming from what has happened to you. It's something that's created in the mind right now. Because of what? Because you don't want to think about what has happened. You don't want to think, or this mind doesn't want to perceive these kind of memories. It doesn't want to think about the past or these kind of events. And as much as you don't want to think about certain memories, when these memories come to you, that much they will feel painful to you. It's not about the memory itself. So actually, once you realize this point, once you realize that memories are just that, what's the reason to be afraid of them? No matter what they are, no matter what was happened to you, the pain has already happened. It's no longer there. The only thing that can happen, only thing that can come to you is a memory, and it can't bring you any suffering. So what are you afraid of? Similarly, you go to work and you are afraid maybe somebody will say something to you. For example, or you have to give a speech in front of your class. Now you're afraid, what if they will laugh at me? Now in this moment, you're not mindful. Why? If somebody laughs at you, what's the problem with that? It's a sound, it's a sight. That's it. It's just an event. Nothing more. It is not something to be afraid of. We are afraid of actually an illusion. We are afraid of the illusion of we are afraid because we believe, and we always believe, that these are events which can terrify me, which can give me fear, but there's no such a thing. Once you realize that, if you can be in this awareness, in the awareness of this truth, nothing can hurt you, because you can only hurt yourself. No one else can hurt you. No one else can also give you happiness. Actually, a mind that doesn't want to see something but just perceives whatever happens is the most happy mind, right? So such a mind, in other words, when in our mind we can have this awareness, that the awareness of these concepts, this understanding, such a mind wouldn't want to experience something that it doesn't have, right? Do you want, when you're looking at this wall for 2 hours, is that something boring? Is the experience a boring one? No. You create your own boredom while that happens. Why do you create boredom? Because of this internal feeling that this is something very boring, this is something, it doesn't have any entertainment. But there are things which can entertain me, right? For example, watching football is something entertaining, watching a romance, watching a movie, or chatting on WhatsApp, or using my phone. These are entertaining experiences. So in other words, the entertainment and the pleasure comes from these experiences. The moment this seed exists in your mind, boredom is created, not by the wall, but by your mind. The moment you're aware of the fact that this is how it is, boredom is not something created by the world, it's something created in the mind itself. The moment you're aware of that, boredom doesn't happen anymore, right? And then you can actually enjoy anything you want with this awareness. Only thing that you have to do is practice it. And it's not an easy thing, but the answers are there. And the answers to all your mental problems, sufferings are there in these concepts. It's always that. So I explained to you how you can understand the pain that happens to you because of what has happened to you in the past. I mean, the words that have been uttered. It's not in the words, the pain, and it's not in the past. It can never be in the past. It can never be in the words. It's always the resistance against what actually happens, right? In this mind right now. So it's such a funny thing, because we always grow up and we get told by the society, you are a man, you are a woman, these are very valuable parts of your body, these are things you shouldn't show anyone. And it is, of course, it's true. We have to adhere to these conventions, otherwise you will create a lot of problems. So we have to follow the convention. So that's why when you come to a sermon, you behave in a certain way. When you go to the street, when you go to work, you don't go in your pajamas. You don't do these things, because for the sake of others, that others can be pleasant. So in other words, to match others' expectations. That's what we do for others. But the thing is with these indoctrinations that society has given us, is that they make you believe this part of your body is something very valuable. You should protect that a lot, because this is very valuable as opposed to others. Once your mind accepts this fact that value exists in these things, now you become the security guard. Now you really believe that value is there, so I should not this should not be experienced by anyone. And if that happens, then nothing should happen to this, right? Imagine I were to think that my finger is so valuable this finger is so valuable compared to this. Now I don't want this to be lost. I want to protect this. Similarly, we honestly feel there are some parts of our body which are much more beautiful than others. But, the reality is not like that. Everything is the same. In this body, there's no beautiful part. There's no ugly part. Even no matter how you look like, you can never look beautiful. I'm sorry to say. And you can also you look ugly. So if ever you look into the mirror and you feel I'm ugly or I'm not as beautiful as I could be, because you started to believe wrong ideas. The idea that happiness, beauty or ugliness exists in outside things. These are just creations of the mind. That's why when 10 people look at you, they will all feel very different about looking at you. Some people will like it, some people will not like it, right? So, my teacher always told this one story, the biggest irony of all, which is the thing about the beauty. How much we make ourselves slave to the world. How much, let's say there's a girl, she thinks she has learned that beauty exists in the outside world, therefore there are ways to look beautiful and then there are ways to look ugly, right? So in other words, now she believes that in order to be happy, she has to look a certain way. So then what does she have to do? She has to do all the work, right? She has to go to the gym, she has to buy the makeup, she has to apply the makeup, she has to dress up her clothes, she has to buy the clothes, she has to make her hair. This is what all of these she has to do, right? A lot of effort. And even you do that, you make up your makeup and for the evening, for the night it looks good, but next morning you already looks you have to make it again, right? So you continuously have to maintain this kind of stuff. Always maintaining a lot. And then the biggest irony of all is, if at least we could say beauty is something you can create, so it takes you a lot of work, but once you did that work, you actually have the beauty, we could say, okay, that's a bit of we can accept that deal, right? So beauty is there with you, but you have to work hard. Fine. The biggest irony of all is, you can work really hard, you can make your hair, you can make your face, you can buy the makeup, and then still, who decides whether that is beautiful or not? Not you, another person. I know, for example, there were times in my life, if you were to ask me, a girl with makeup or without makeup, I would have said, I like it without. And then there are others there that are with. So imagine the girlfriend at that time, she was trying really hard to impress me, or I don't know. Then she made herself up, and then I look at it and I don't like that. So all this effort to please someone else, for what? Because how much you try to look beautiful, you can't. So all that effort, in a certain way, it is totally wasted. No, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do these things in order to fit to the conventions of society and to render pleasantness to others, because it's true, of course, when you go to work, you should go to work in a pleasant attire, looking pleasant. So then others can feel good about that, and they enjoy working with you. And I mean, actually, just because we're not living in a world full of arahants, so it matters to people what they see or what they don't see. So for that reason, we don't do certain things. When we use a toilet, we flush it, right? Why? Because it is disgusting to look at this? Actually, it's not. Because it's disgusting to smell this? Actually, it's not. But people believe that. In order for them not to feel at least suffering, we do it. But we, for ourselves, we must realize one thing, which is disgustingness is not in the smell, it's not in the sight. This is things we create in our mind. When you realize that, you would not be offended if somebody would do that to you. When you go to a toilet and it's not flushed, you wouldn't be suffering, you wouldn't be vexed, because that's up to you. Suffering is optional for you. It's not something the world can ever give you. So nobody can offend you. You offend yourself if you don't realize the Dhamma. Then you go to the toilet and you're offended, and you even blame the other person for doing that to you. But he hasn't done it. This is the biggest irony of samsara as well, because all of samsara, how many times have we blamed others for doing something to us that they haven't done? That is what we call musavada. When we go to someone and tell him, buy this yogurt, it's tasty, play this game, it's fun, look at this, this is beautiful, this is what we call musavada. Not lying. Yes, lying also, of course. Lying and gossiping, all these are also musavada, but the more basic form of musavada is, even when we say, he left the toilet seat, he didn't flush the toilet, and it smells so disgusting. That's also musavada, although because disgustingness doesn't come from the smell. I'm sorry. So, this is the thing. Because we have never realized any of this, and we always believe this truth, what happened was, we always thought we were right in what we said. So we thought we have a right to blame this person for doing this. And then we judged others. You are, look at you, why are you behaving like this? You shouldn't behave like this. So we judge. He's doing bad things, he's doing good things, and so on. And then, you know what Jesus said? If you judge others, you too shall be judged. Right? So that's what the nature works. That's why for all these things, actually we have accumulated musavada. Actually we acted out of dvesha. And dvesha means karma. And karma means you will be judged. As the way you judge, you will be judged. Even when you see somebody not flushing their toilets and you get angry about that, for the anger you will be judged. Conventionally, of course, it is not something good. So of course, we can go to this person and tell him, could you kindly please not do this because we want to have a good environment and all these things. Yes, you can do that. That is something good. But the anger, that is something that you have to pay for. Karma will happen for that, and you will be judged for that, right? So anger is always this belief, now I have a right to blame the other person. So anger is judging. But an arahant would also go and tell somebody, could you kindly next time you use the toilet, flush it, because that's not nice for everyone. That's something, you want this person to change his attitude, not the action. The action doesn't really matter, right? It's about the attitude. And if there's something wrong with his attitude, somebody not flushing the toilet because of an attitude, the attitude is a problem for him, not for us, not ever for us, right? On the other hand, if you were to go to someone and tell somebody, could you kindly flush it, or why did you not flush? First, it might be better to ask, why didn't you do that? Because there might be a valid reason for why he didn't do that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he just got a call, my sister is in the hospital and we need to go very quickly, otherwise there will be something happening, and then he decided not to flush because there was something more important to do. Then we could say, there was no problem with the attitude whatsoever. So then there's no reason to complain. Then even an arahant wouldn't actually have any reason to criticize, right? So actually, when you realize that musavada is not just lying and all these things, but it's simply in enticing sensuality, talking about beauty in outside things, or talking about disgust or ugliness in outside things. Look, she's so ugly. That's a musavada. Then you start to realize that this world is so much different from how we have perceived it. And this is just the beginning. But it's better to realize it today than tomorrow, because now we can still accept and learn to understand the way reality really is, and then we can be at peace with nature. Otherwise, we will always keep fighting with nature for no return whatsoever. We can't expect any reward for fighting with nature, because nature is always true and you're always wrong. Nature will never change its own ways. Until you realize and accept nature, you will suffer. If you realize how it works, you can stop. If not, then it will continue, and you have to keep going through that things, right? So, that's it for today. We'll go through these things, of course, every sermon in one way or another. sometimes deeper, sometimes not so deep, and I'll try to explain how this makes sense into your lives, and then I hope that you can understand this and apply this into your lives, and then your life will change. That's how it has happened to me. But for this to make sense, so first of all, for you to for the opportunity for you to come here, not maybe here, but at least to some sermon where the Dhamma is being preached. Doesn't matter, you don't have to see me, could also be another monk, it doesn't really matter, or another layperson also, or another nun, doesn't matter. But to associate the Dhamma, you need merits. These we have to do. So today you have consumed merits by coming here. Actually a lot. But if you have genuinely, wholeheartedly tried to grasp something, to get something from this sermon, if you have tried, if the intention was there, then you have also gained a lot of merits. Even, let's say, you fall asleep in this sermon, that's not a problem if it happens. But the intention is what counts. The intention of wanting to grasp something, wanting to learn something, to improve, wanting to attain Nibbāna, that's what you have to have. For this you will gain merits by listening to the sermon. And all the when we do the Buddha Puja, merit transfer, so we are going to transfer the merits now, and then also we express our gratitude to everyone who has helped us in this journey of samsara, our parents in this life, parents in past lives, teachers, the noble lineage of the Mahasangha, all the bhikkhus, bhikkhunis who have, they have kept this teaching alive so that we can still make use of it today, and our ancestors, and the Devas and Brahmas who are protecting this asana a lot, that we don't see that, but they do that, right? So all these things we do, because in this journey of samsara, many have helped us. So we need to think about them. Think about your ancestors, maybe people who have already died, but they have done a lot for you to be here today, to be alive today, to be smart, to have good virtues, to think about others, to have kindness in your heart. So you have to be grateful for that, and that's why we share the merits. Any merit that you do, right? Then that helps you as well. It's a merit for you, and they can also rejoice in that, and they can take something from that. So that maybe they will be born in a place where they can find the Dhamma, and they can also realize it in the next life. Because until they don't realize the Dhamma, they will keep looking for something. This is the thing. Anyone that has died in your family will not be able to rest in peace. If he or she hasn't been able to rest in peace in this life, which means not this vexation, then of course he or she will not rest in peace after this life. Until you come to the Dhamma and to realize the Dhamma and to realize Nibbāna, you can't rest in peace. Even in the Deva worlds, even in the Brahma worlds, they don't rest in peace. It's like they are just very rich. When I was in Germany, if I wanted something, I ordered it on Amazon, next day it came. And Deva world or Brahma world is just like even faster than that. But it couldn't take away the wanting in my mind. No. So at the end of the day, I did a lot of things, but there was no actual gain. I didn't solve the wanting of my mind at all. Actually, it just keeps going on. So this is not the solution. Good. So let's share our merits then. Let us take a moment to transfer the merits that we have all acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, chanting Pirit, listening to the Dhamma, and engaging in various meritorious deeds today. First and foremost, let us transfer these merits to all the bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, upasikas and upasakas who since time immemorial have protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha and have passed it down to the generation of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand and comprehend the Dhamma. Let's also transfer these merits to all members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including the chief prelates of all of the chapters who have dedicated their lives towards the noble path and have committed themselves towards the betterment of all sentient beings. Let us also not forget that among them are the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries, who have always been by your side, through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let's also transfer these merits to Guru Swami Hanse, as well as all the monks resident at the monastery, as well as the Anagarika and Anagarika attached to the monastery. Let's also transfer these merits and express our gratitude to all those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by transliterating these sermons, sharing them out with others, or inviting others to join them. If any of them have been born in a woeful plane, may they redeem themselves and be born in a blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to our devotees, friends of the monastery, who for the sake of merits continue to sustain the Mahasangha by providing the Mahasangha with shelter, robes, arms and medicines, as well as passing on their know-how and extending their well wishes. May they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to everyone who is involved in making this event a success, by organizing this event, by giving their approval for this event to happen, by being part of this event, making offerings, or simply rejoicing in this event, or making the parking spots available, or by cleaning this room, or any sort of things. May through the power of these merits, they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to our mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our elders, friends and acquaintances, employers and employees, and to all those who have helped us, supported us and assisted us. And also let's transfer these merits to our teachers. May through the power of these merits they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, and fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also transfer these merits to the Devas and Brahmas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakradeva, as well as all the numerous gods and deities who are committed to protect and fulfill the Sambuddhasasana. Let's also transfer these merits to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May through the power of these merits they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to our ancestors, all those who have predeceased us, all those who have been family and friends to us in this infinitely long journey of samsara. Let's also transfer these merits to all members of the armed forces, as well as the police force, who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those who lost their lives in the war, be they friend or foe, rejoice in the merits we have acquired today. Let's also transfer these merits to all those who lost their lives in natural calamities, such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslides and pandemics, reminding ourselves that among them will be those who have been family and friends to us in this infinitely long journey of samsara. May through the power of these merits, they be, if any of them have been born in the woeful plane, they redeem themselves and be born in a blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, let us all resolve that, may through power and blessings of all the merits that we have acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of arahants on this blessed land. And finally, may through power of all the merits we have acquired today, you and I and everyone who has helped to make this program a success, become an Arahatan Hanse, an Arahatan Hinin Hanse in this very life itself and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now the Mahasangha will transfer their blessings to you. Raga ginnin midetva, Dvesha ginnin midetva, නිදෙත්වා මෝහගින්නෙන් නිදෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා මමද සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝ නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා රාගගිනි නිවේවා ද්වේෂගිනි නිවේවා මෝහගිනි නිවේවා නිවන් සැප ලැබේවා නිවන් සැප ලැබේවා නිවන් සැප ලැබේවා තුනුරුවන්ගේ සුවිසී අනන්ත මහා ගුණ බලෙන් සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝ නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛින් සුඛිතර වෙත්වා සාදු සාදු සාදු